Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch and welcome back to my studio. In today's lesson, I will show you what's actually happening behind the scenes, what usually you do not see, how the artists are mixing their colors, how they bring them into the artwork. This is very important that you start from the very beginning with very correct techniques, and I will show you how to do that. Before we start to paint, our paints, they look dry, especially if we haven't used them for a certain amount of time. That's why it's nice to have a water dispenser, and before you start to paint, water a little bit all your palette. Even if you go into paint just with 1 or 2 or 3 colors, it's nice to add a little bit of water into your paints, because water tends to evaporate, the medium tends to evaporate. We need to bring it back. So we prepared our colors. I have a glass jar next to me. I wash my brush, it's full of water, the water is dripping, and I remove the initial amount of water just on the edge of the jar. So once again, I have a lot of water. I remove first drop on the edge of the jar, and then I go into my paints. I don't grab paints like this. No, that's ruin your brush very quickly. I go to my paints. I hold my brush almost in parallel with the paints, and I make this rolling move, and that's how I grab the paint. And I can even squeeze a little bit of water back into the paint. That's how we also can return water and keep our paints in a nice humid status. So once again, I grab my paints with rolling move, and then I bring it onto the palette. I usually use just white ceramic plates because they are very convenient, and they do not destroy your brush, they show the color perfectly, easy to wash, etc. So I bring paint onto my palette, and if I want to mix it, the palette is the bridge between paints and your artwork, because on the palette I can correct the dilution or the boldness of the color, and also I can create mixes on my palette. But let's say we just paint with pink, so I create a nice amount, nicely diluted mix, and then from my palette I bring colors onto my paper. Let's do it once again. I remove a drop of water into the water jar. I go into my palette. I make a squeezing move to grab the paint. I bring it onto palette, onto my plate, and from the plate I'm applying it onto my paper. So I'm not coming back to the pans, I'm coming back to my palette, to my plate. Next thing, if you want to mix colors, you can do it on your palette. You have yellow, we have I think it's quinacridone rose, so we can add colors, or we can mix colors right in the palette and then apply them onto your artwork. Some artists afraid, I know in the very beginning you had these nicely bright colors in your palette. You wash your brush every time and try to keep your colors as bright as possible. For some projects, we really need these completely bright, pure colors as we have in the palette. But in most of the cases, it's completely fine to go with the same brush to the colors and mix them. That's why we are not washing the expensive colors, expensive pigments into the water right away. And if you paint in more or less same color schemes, it means your colors are already a little bit prepared. So we grab our mix and bring it in our piece of paper. We can add some water to dilute, and I squeeze my water with pigment back into the palette to keep as much pigment as possible into for use, for practice purposes. So I just do not wash everything out. And you can see from my palette, my yellow is not pure yellow, and I very often use earthy tones like raw sienna, burnt sienna, sepia for mixes. That's why I always go, let's say I'm mixing turquoise with sepia. I can mix them there. I can, let's say I use turquoise. I want to mix it with, to desaturate it with sepia. I'm not washing out the precious pigment into the water. I just go directly into the paints. But of course, if I need to take something very different, something red, which is not supposed to mix, to be added to this green, I wash my brush, I remove the initial drop of water, then I grab with rolling move from my pen and I mix my red mix just in the other side of the palette. I grab colors from the palette and then I see that it needs to be more diluted. I can either use brush and squeeze it back, or I can dilute it with water dispenser as we did to save a little bit of time sometimes. Sometimes colors begin to mix in your palette. That's nice. That create the consistency and very nice color scheme. Why it is wrong? Wrong, maybe not convenient to paint directly from the pens, because you can't estimate the color, the boldness of the color, the saturation of the color, and the darker the colors are, they more look like black, very dark. So you can't really see the difference here with these two colors if we go directly from the pens, but they are very different, you see. So you can take by mistake one color instead of the other color and bring it directly into your actual painting, and then it's very difficult to make corrections. So this is why we need a bridge, and our bridge is the palette. The palette can be a plate, the palette can be some so-called flower palettes with dwells. I recommend you to use ceramic palettes for this purpose. And to have more water control, you will need a paper towel. So now we add to our steps one more extra step. You wash your brush, you remove dripping water back to the jar, you grab watercolor, you bring it into the palette and then you bring it into your artwork. But you see it is very liquid, very diluted. So before you go into artwork, you tap your brush onto paper towel to remove excess water, and then you can paint. So once again, before you go onto watercolor paper, you remove excess water. No need to dry it completely like this. Sometimes we need that, sometimes we don't. So we just tap a little bit to remove another layer of water, and then you paint. And then you feel that it is still too much water, you do few more taps into the paper towel and proceed painting. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you enjoyed the process. I'm looking forward for your feedback and comments. I read each and every one from you. Thank you for your support and see you soon. Bye bye.